Lindy?
Since our last meeting, I was reading some guiding, some archives and some guiding going on still in LU, because I wanted to go deeper into this sense of me that we spoke a little bit last time. And I was very curious about how people were asking about this and how other guides were approaching it or answering these kind of questions. And I kind of saw in me, that there was still some confusion, you know. And for the first time, it was very nice to feel that even if there is confusion, first it's fine, you know. It's not like, yeah, there is some kind of concept that doesn't really, you know, match perfectly my whole system of belief and my understanding. So that was very nice to feel this kind of peace. And at the same time, I'm feeling that where I am right now, there is some aspect that is so subtle, that concept at some point is very difficult to really kind of make sense of words at some stage, and to be very clear, you know, like, okay, these words mean exactly this, or this is, I mean, sometimes I feel like it's really a mystery, and sometimes some answer makes sense in the moment, and after you look at it, it's like, well, it's not really good, his answer, you know, but at the moment you feel that was a good answer. So yeah, I just wanted to share this kind of confusion and mystery, and at the same time, it's not confusion because the answer is always, she's right in the moment. So yeah, it just is. I don't know how you perceive what I'm sharing. I'm curious about your vision, all of you.
So can you describe, or of course with language, attempt to describe what you mean by confusion? Is there some conflict involved?
I would say confusion, because I cannot point specifically. I don't have a really clear definition, you know, that like I can tell you exactly what is the sense of me, you know, it's this and this, and you know, it's like a mystery. That's the point.
So I experience the mystery, the absolute inability to pin down, to define or describe anything really, anything at all. But I don't feel confusion about it. So what's the difference when you do feel confusion about it? Is there a story that says it should be clear, or There's something.
Yeah, there is there is yeah, there is a story that I must be able to answer with great precision and clarity to all topics, to every question, you know.
Okay. That's
So I
that.
think maybe that's why I'm kind of
Yeah.
I'm, I feel this kind of this, some confusion maybe. But now that you're asking, it's not really confusion. It's maybe frustration more. Now that you ask me,
Yeah.
I still feel this part that I don't know really at some point want to get it.
Yeah. But you see the humor in this as well. When you say it, I can see you laughing, and you see that there's some humor in having an expectation like this, eh?
Yeah, because I'm more and more clear about the paradox of our about my situation. Like the the impulse to have clarity and to define and to talk about it and to be more clear is is useless because it's impossible. But at the same time, I have this impulse, and
Yeah, yeah,
I want to be more precise and be able to for myself and others to really uh, to really give to give answers that
yeah, yeah,
are more
yeah,
nice. But
yeah,
at the same time, I know that is you cannot speak about it. So
yeah,
so
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know it's a little bit of it's a mix.
Yeah.
I found with exploring the sense of me, that when I asked myself the question, is it inside or outside? Can it be confined within the boundary of the body? Is it near or far? The similar sort of questions that asking with the other sense fields. It just sort of expanded. It sort of blew up. I suppose it expanded the whole sense and the seeing of the label sense of me. It just sort of, it didn't blow it away because it's like still there, but it doesn't need and the label is so somehow right in some way because it is mysterious, but it feels personal, and yet the personal has no borders or boundaries. And so then it becomes not impersonal, just intimate with everything, I suppose, really. That's what I've been sort of exploring on that. And also like you, David, reading past archives, especially that one, because it's I think it's the intellectual looking, seeking for the I and the self. Has a different flavor, the sense of me. So yeah.
Yeah, I suspect that reading those archives, even if you well, of course, all the archives are with about threads of people that have actually gone through the gate. So, but what arises here is to immediately say, well, you might as well be reading a Mickey Mouse comic book, or you might as well be reading science fiction, because what actually happened isn't reflected in those words, in those interchanges. What actually happened was so as you say, Rowena, it's so intimate that it can't be described for the person that it happened for, and the person who was guiding had no idea what they triggered in those people. So if the impulse to be able to be clear about what happened, or clear about what you're mentioning there, David, that's just like any other arising. You know, it's fine that it happens, but one of the things that Rowena said that I thought of was that she said it's not just personal, that it's intimate, right? And she was describing an experience, that feeling of intimacy, right? But what I thought at the same moment that she said that was that it has no meaning. And when you think about what that describes, it is that there is no concept that can cover it. There is no meaning. There is no story that makes sense of it. And so it was just that experience of intimacy or love, or however you want to try and describe it. But that if there is a meaning, well, I can't see that there can be any. All meaning is constructed, so I can't see anything other than everybody constructing a different meaning to it if they do want to do that. So it's rather pointless. And even that sense of intimacy, everybody's going to have it different, and nobody can describe it in any accurate way. So what it comes back to is, if the impulse to be clear, or to whatever that impulse is that arises, it's just an arising, and I find it rather amusing that those arisings happen. When they happen in me, they do. It's just funny, right? Where did that come from? Why would I want to get into that story? You know, it's just. But there's no answer. There's definitely no way that I can say, oh well, here's what it is. You know, so there's this weird thing. You know, a really weird thing. I think I talk like I know, but I don't. I don't know anything. And I know that I don't know anything. But so what comes out of my mouth with that tone of voice of confidence or sureness, or whatever, however you want to describe it, is just because of the shape of my vocal cords and my personality that's developed and all that kind of thing. It means nothing. You know, there's no knowledge here. So the fact that there are no more questions isn't because I have the answers. It's because I recognize that every question is somewhat ludicrous, because there are no answers. There are no satisfactory answers. There are no answers with any meaning. So how do we transmit? It's a funny word. It's not quite right. It's an old world one, I guess. But that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to transmit to people. I want Ramiz, and I want Soren, and I want Lindy to stop chasing rainbows. Recognize that you've got the gold in your hand. All you need to do is relax and appreciate, and there it is. It's so simple, but it's so difficult to get that understanding, to get that response, whatever it is, to share that across.
When Vince, when you, and I don't know if anyone else was, consensus, but when you actually said that it has no meaning, if you were looking at truth-like criteria of joy and expansiveness versus a contraction and a sort of like thought coming in, or some sort of bodily contraction. There was a huge, pulsation of expansiveness and joyfulness here. Just on those words, it has no meaning because of the freedom.
Yes.
And then I was thinking, on that, maybe I don't know if anyone else felt that. But then, what would have been the opposite if there'd been a sort of theoretical discussion of what it does mean and where it comes from and what makes it, how would the body receive that, the being receive that, and comparing the two, the absolute freedom of it having to mean anything.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely like trying to put the genie back in the bottle or put the cat into a box or something, Yeah.
Well, yes, it's like the bypass of, we are supposed to be searching, man's search for meaning, or, everything needs to mean something because we need something to mean it so that we can believe it. So therefore we feel that we've got a purpose, and it just leads into the whole, psyche, suffering of the psyche, and then just having that sort of like jolt of whatever of truth. It just shows how we go the wrong way. We've been always going the wrong way because to cover up some sort of deep angst.
Yeah.
Well, the first fetter is the 10th fetter is not knowing, isn't that right? Is that the
Ignorance.
Wanting to know?
It's yes. I mean, the word ignorance is how it's written, but that implies, in our Western dictionary, implies ignorance as a negative state, whereas in fact what we're looking at is that a recognition that all the way I arrived at it is that we can only have belief. We have stories, and some stories we consider to be true, and some stories we consider to be not true, and maybe some partially. I don't know if that's possible. So ignorance is just recognizing that it's just all only stories, and that they can only have whatever meaning we impart to them. So there is nothing to be known. There is, see, to know something implies that there's something to be known, that there's something external to me. There's something out there that I can, that even if that's just knowledge, not something actually physical, but there's not even any knowledge out there to be known. Any knowledge is not knowledge. It's just a belief. It's just a story. But we jump too far ahead with this, I think, for a few of us here. And I think although it can be too far ahead, it can not necessarily. If you were to go to a non-duality meeting, an Advaita meeting, then maybe they are trying to jump straight to that point in one leap. But that, and if you can get triggered that way, that's fine, I guess. But then I think if that does happen, there still is words so hard. it's a need that's not a need. There's a requirement that's not a requirement. There's value that's not really value, but there's something, some positive thing in going back and looking at the other stuff that's there, you know, that still exists, even if you go straight to the fact that there is nothing to know, because we're human and we are conditioned and we have stuff in us that we respond to, and those responses are diversions. They're just ways of trying to handle whatever gets triggered in us. So sometimes if we could go straight to the state of not knowing, you could call that bypassing. It could well be that what we're simply doing is trying to ignore as a result of that stuff that's there. So
again, I think that's where the visceral or going into the felt sense is so important, because the striving to know and explain and have a precise language for things, which I really recognize, also here when I'm wanting to write or oh, now I'm forgetting what I was going to say. There is there's a, well, I guess there's still an element. It's this identification with needing to know. There's still that drive. There's still that there's something in the system that is still not freed up with with trusting or with not knowing. And yet at the same time, the other part of what's going on, there's a total freedom in the not knowing, and the paradox of that holding the two together, of when it comes to language and expressing, it's like, oh yeah, I want to, sort of, there's still some selfing in, and so if I would be just saying, oh, well, it doesn't mean anything, and you just tell everyone, well, it doesn't mean anything, that would be completely a bypass of the system. Yep. And so the two are just so intertwined.
Yep. Yeah. I had an interesting experience today, and I was cleaning up my garage, and I was pulling some hose out from a shelf to take away and put somewhere else more appropriate. And as I did, I pulled out a whole lot of other stuff and it fell on the floor. And up came this upwelling of anger. I swore at it. You fucking bastard. Yeah. And immediately there was, where did that come from? What is that about? Yeah. And there was there was zero time between it happening, the upwelling of anger, and the recognition that what was happening, and then the looking for sensations that happened as well. And I have no idea. I have no idea that it means anything, that it was what it was. I could describe as certainly as selfing. That anger that came up was saying something. It was me. I saw quite clearly that it was me responding to a story, that now I've got another bloody job to do. I've got to get down on the floor and pick all these tiny little things up that were scattered everywhere. Right? That story was what I was responding to. And I saw it. I saw it happen. Does it mean that I've lost something that I had? I don't think so. Does it mean that there's still things that can get triggered? Sure. There is, you know, that's been a while since that happened for me, but it did happen. So it tells me that, you know, there's no end to this stuff as long as these things keep on happening. And it might be months before it happens again, but it probably will. I mean, it may be. I don't know. I have no idea. Does it mean that I'm stuck on a particular fetter? I don't know. Does it mean that I have no idea? I have no idea. It was just, it was a bit funny afterwards, but it was like a statement of not knowing. That was kind of the big thing I took away from it. I don't know. I have no idea. Yeah.
I'm not sure whether I'm finding this discussion comfortable or uncomfortable. I don't actually know. I missed a few minutes. My electrician popped in, but yeah, it's very interesting that this is just the kind of place where I am at the moment. Yeah, it is. It really is a not knowing where I am in this whole process.
But can you,
I'd like to know, but I don't, you know, I don't absolutely need to know, but it would be quite useful to have a bit more of an idea about where I am, just because, you know, what should I be doing next? Or should I be doing anything, or should I be doing nothing? You know, I mean, doing nothing isn't an option, if I'm quite honest, because, you know, I'm on the, I mean, I call myself an explorer rather than a seeker now, because I think I've theoretically found, you know, but what's going on here, I'm really quite unclear about. And this has been brought up particularly. I've been doing, don't know whether any of you have heard of it, the 2-part formula. Have any heard of it? No. Well, it's very interesting. It's Buddhist based, and a friend put me onto it. And I have to say, it is really quite amazing. Where, well, very basically, you get in touch with the whole sense of self, the know me, the whatever, and then you consciously bring the me, the I sense, that, you know, really work at it and bring it in, and then see it as an object of your experience. So it's not sort of general thing. It's very, very, you know, and find where it is in your body and explore it and look into it, you know, and then you go backwards and forwards and do that. And I definitely feel that it's having some kind of effect, but it appears that from all the transcripts I've read of what other people have done, that the most people that eventually, you know, sort of find this big object and whatever, and then, you know, it just gradually releases and releases and releases, seems to be in people's heads behind the eyes. But I just cannot get any sensation at all. And I just don't know whether, I mean, I need to get in touch with the guy who, you know, who's put this forward, obviously. But I mean, this is just the bit I'm doing at the moment, but I can't find that. I mean, all my big sensations are in the solar plexus, you know, and I do sit and feel a lot. How much is released, I have no idea. Sometimes that feeling just stays with me for hours. Sometimes it does release. But I was listening to, I've just, I'm on Feta 2 now, and I was listening to Todd's interview with Pernilla, which is just amazing. I was thinking, my goodness me, his journey, you know, and whatever. It's just, I could be his twin almost, you know, and talking about this kind of doubt. You know, I've always wanted to know how things work, and you know, I've got to be certain about things, you know, being quite clear about things. And that's given me some hope, because the last bit, I haven't finished it yet, but he was saying, you know, when he suddenly realized not knowing is fine and is actually the normal state, then that, you know, that for him was a big aha moment. So don't know where I am really. So this discussion is really, really interesting for me, because you know, I mean, I'm not going to stop exploring. I mean, it just is going to happen, and things keep coming to me that seem to be the next thing to consider or the next thing to feel or whatever. But, you know, I don't want to hold myself up with loads of doubt. If indeed, you know, awakening has started, happened. You know what I mean? I mean, these words are completely inadequate. And, you know, I'm not new to all this. So just using the words that come out, because I feel I've got a, you know, pretty good understanding. And when I really look for the me, you know, I really cannot find it. So I know and believe that there isn't a me. And yet 99% of my life, I'm still acting, reacting, functioning very much as the me, and I get very easily triggered by all the same old shit. So it's
But
like,
Lindy, how do you know that you're functioning as the me? Let's try this. Let's say there is still functioning happening. There are still things happening, rather than those things mean that it's me.
selfing. It's still all very much about me. Very, very much about me. Selfing. Every thought I have is still selfing.
So how do you know?
It's less.
What do you call it selfing?
Well, something happens. Oh, how's that going to affect me? Oh, what would I think about that? Oh, I don't think I could do that. You
Right.
know, it's not the clear seeing. It's everything is related back to me still. I think it's less, but it's still.
So answer me this.
Mm.
When one of those things happens, if you were to stop and look at it and investigate it, would you recognize that the description that it's happening to me are just words, that the reality of it is that those things just happen?
I do if I think of it and if I remember.
Okay. Now
But it's very shaky. It's very early days for that.
Yes, sure. Yeah, but what I'm saying is that's enough, right? The fact that you're having those responses, that's habit, that's conditioning, right? The fact that if you look at it and investigate it, even in the slightest way, you recognize it for what it is, which is a happening with a story that it's happening to me.
Mm.
You see that, right? Now, as you were talking before, what came to mind for me was that the whole thing is about one thing, just one thing. And that is that you have a story about some future state. And as a result of that, you're ignoring the present, what is here now, right? The only thing, if I could wave a magic wand for you, I would wave a wand that would say, Lindy is very happy with the present, whatever that is.
Yeah, there's
the
certainly a
only thing
very,
that-
very, very long-standing habit of always wanting something
Right.
different, always in the future. You know, I'm thinking
Yeah.
I might move house, so now I'm looking at houses. You know, it's
Yeah. Now that's not going
always
to change because that's the way you are, right?
okay.
But what will change, what has changed already, but you're overlooking it, is the fact that you recognize that it's just habit. You don't have to apply the story that says it means, therefore, that I'm not yet something
Okay.
or fully something or whatever. That's a story part that you're bringing to what is actually going on. Right?
I was hoping somebody might say that.
Good. And stop comparing yourself to other people. Your experience is definitely going to be unique. No matter what you read about what other people, they can have it all behind their head, but you have it in the solar plexus. That's you. Okay. That's them.
Okay.
That means nothing at all. Now there's no right or wrong, right, to do that. And if you do talk to the chappie and he says, oh no, we've definitely got to experience it in the head. Well, that's his story, and that's another thing that you might want to chase that one or not. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But look, we're not gonna experience some golden orb that shines on us and causes us to be different in any way to the way we are. Each have our own personality. That's kind of a dirty word, but we'll use it for the moment. Everybody has their own personality. Everybody has their own experience. Everybody has a unique conditioning, and our character is our character. That's not going to change. I talked like this way before I woke up. I always talked like I knew what was going on, but it's all a lie. It doesn't mean anything. And our character is our character, and it will still be our character after we wake up. What will be different is the second dart thing, the suffering that we add to what's going on by telling ourselves stories. We should be different. It should be different. If only I could wake up, things will be different. If only I could be fully awake, things will be different. It'll be the day after tomorrow, it'll be great. It'll happen. It'll be different. It won't be different. It'll be exactly what you're getting now. Exactly what you're getting now. Except you'll just respond to it a little differently. You won't respond to it with a sense of lack or insufficiency. You'll respond to it with okay, it is what it is. Right? You heard my story about dropping that this morning. Does that mean that I'm
absolutely
not? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, that's really useful for me. Yeah, I think the lack story is very slowly dropping away. I was going to say something else. Oh, yeah, and I'm recognizing the second dart quite often now. I'm only recognizing it. It's not doing anything else much. But look, yeah.
So if it doesn't stop, that's okay. Recognizing it is what happens. Yeah.
There's certainly some conflict going on. Of course, I mean, there's no point denying that, I'm hoping that one day,
Yep. And that's fine too. That's fine. So you have a.
But I am aware. I am also aware that there is that. Oh, won't it be wonderful? I'm wait. That won't bother me. But I recognise that is a story. I also know through my experiences, one of which I told you happened a couple of weeks ago, a bit of a shift. I also know that it's not going to be any different to this. The only difference is my perspective will probably change a little bit, so that there's less suffering, and hopefully that will grow a bit. I mean, I've had the big, well, not bells and whistles, but a very clear, I mean, a very, very clear seeing a good few years ago. I mean, it didn't hang around long. Personality sort of came back. I don't feel it changed my identity. But it was a really, really big shift when it happened. I mean, it was just astonishing, very real, no bells and whistles, no angels, nothing, but a complete change in perspective where thoughts were out here, they weren't in here. There was an awareness of everything that was going on. But I spoke to a few people, basically I put it down, well, that was just an interesting witnessing thing, just to show you, show me what happens and maybe keep me on the path. But the more I think about it, the more I think there was actually something much more to it than that, because it really gave me a view of just how it would be, just to be that little bit different. Everything would be the same, but everything would be very different. And yet, for the last, I don't know how many years, 7 or 8 years since that happened, there's been tremendous suffering, it's all continued. So therefore I thought, well, maybe was it, is it big, is it not big? So you can see where I'm kind of coming from. I'm not hugely over exercised by all this, but it's wonderful to be able to talk about it. And obviously it's nice to think, well, after all this seeking time, maybe now some of this is very, very slowly coming to fruition, which, again, will keep me focused.
Yep.
Linda, okay. Sorry, I cannot. Okay. I just wanted to add something from earlier on, and you were talking about releasing a big ball of hard energy or something that you found in your solar plexus. You were doing that process that you found, and so this just came to mind. And when you said that, have you ever heard of a sea ball? It's like you do these games like with energy, and you hold your hands together and you create a ball of energy, sort of like mentally. And
Qigong, I've done it. Yeah,
I like that. So this was just a thought that came into mind, that when we've got a sensation, some sort of contraction of sensation, the very fact of focusing with an intention for it to release is a little bit like creating that. It's adding energy and focus to something, trying to make it go away, you know. Whereas if it could, the perspective could be, look, a realization, oh gosh, I'm seeking an outcome here, you know, I've got a goal and I want this to go away, then it will be most likely not likely to
no,
move.
when I said releasing, I'm not trying to actually release it. Most of the time I just sit with it, ask it what it is, what does it want, what can I do. I use the guest house analogy, so a lot of it is sitting with it. So I do know about that, but I've just got a bit sort of sidelined doing this different practice for a while, because I know several people who have just found it amazing, and somebody's quite big awakening happened while they were doing it. So, me, like, oh, let's try that then. So, I'm just exploring really, but it's nice to have a bit of a map. I've always been quite of a map kind of person, this doubter, a bit of certainty, or exactly where am I on the map? And I'm not clinging to that too much, but nevertheless, it would be silly to deny that I'm not interested in a bit more about where I am. And this is such a lovely forum to be able to talk about it, to sort of keep me real about it. And, me.
And
I
look,
think it's very interesting that when you share about this comparison that you listen code and you had some idea, and after you listen to the guy with his techniques, and you had some in the head or in the plexus, and you had some idea about it. And I'm amazed about this, because the other time I was listening, just by myself listening a video where there were some people supposedly awake, saying that there were no self, but each one of them was speaking for about an hour about how they realize it. So at some point, the situation becomes so like, what's going on, and all of this story about how someone get it, it's truly a fantasy.
It's what,
Truly.
sorry?
It's a fantasy. It's an imagination. All of it, absolutely all of it. It's just, you have no idea to know if it's true. And even the one who is speaking, is translating where he is now, his memory. So it's not even the real event that he's talking about. And if he speaks this story in 10 years, it will be different, because we speak, we communicate our memory through our direct knowing that is right here. So those stories are always different. So really, but I'm thinking to you, but I'm thinking to myself that I really have to be careful about the story that people are talking about. I read some text. Someone say, I become fully awake at 25. I said, what is awake? What is full? And what is fully awake? I have no idea what they're talking about. And my mind goes, am I fully awake? How do I know? There is, it's, I don't know. Yeah, it's strange.
I like to think I'm pretty discerning after all this time. I think I can, discern bullshit at 100 meters pretty much, actually. So I have narrowed everything down quite well to and also according to what works with this personality, because, I'm aware the personality is going to continue anyway. So thank you for that. Yes, it is good. There are some people, you know, out there who speak about this who I trust, but it's quite a narrow band these days, really. Mm.
I think what can be useful is to you can explore time, because even if we say habits, we say often there is a strong habit, but habit implies that you are doing this for many years. But when you explore time, you see that it's just happening now. So in fact, you just have to take care about one thing that is right here and appearing. Every action is appearing. It's singular. It never happened again. So it's just what is happening right here. And there is the thought that it's a habit, and there is a somatic habit, but it's not that strong. If you remove time off, if you really explore time more and more, this kind of energy of this kind of thoughts, you know, that I am like this for so long time, you know, oh, the personality was here for a long time, and I suffer for a long time. It's kind of stretching suffering for years behind, and for years in the future. You can kind of narrow it more like, okay, I feel like shit now, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I think the time thing is something. Does time come into fetters a bit later? Because time is a really tricky one for me.
Why do you want to wait? You know what I mean? This is what with the feather stuff, I read it.
Well,
I often
yeah,
wait, but
I have done a
you know,
lot of exploration time, but I just find it takes me off on all kinds of tangents. I kind of feel that it, you know, that will kind of sink in and become part of this. It'll be a bit of an aha. But I'm
no, of
glad I
course. I
found
mean,
the
but
fetters.
yeah, it was a proposition, but you know, do what feels right for you, of course.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just very pleased really that I found the fetters, because I think that will you know, help me to hone in on the things that I do need to look at, and time is certainly one of those. But I mean, the whole doubt thing, you know, I mean, it's a huge subject. Although there's not much new material in there, there's not much about me I don't know. It's seeing it, you know, it's seeing it in a slightly different way and putting it into a different context, and yeah, working with it in a different way. So
You're hanging on to this story that you've got to change. You keep talking about like how you'll be or how you would want to be. You keep talking about being different to the way you are now. Right? So one of the really interesting things about the time thing is that you can presume, and this is the story stuff, you can presume that whatever happened in the past had some effect, but your experience of that is now. It doesn't matter whether you were 1 year old or 10 years old or whatever age you were when that original experience happened. It's only a memory now, right? It's only a thought story, call it a memory, right? But when you experience something, whether it's as a result of that or of anything, it's now. You experience it now. So there's only one thing for you to do, and that is be happy with the way things are now. Or if you're not happy, that's okay too. It's now, right now. There is nothing
I
other
think,
than right now.
well, I
So
think that's why the fetters are going to be useful for me,
when you
because
say
I'm
they're
very
going to be
aware.
useful, but wait a minute, you're going to be useful. That's another story. They're going to
They
be
are
useful.
useful. They're already useful.
Well, yeah. So how are they useful? They're going to change things for the future. That's another story, right? So whether you're into the fetters or not into the fetters or into this or into that or whatever you're doing, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. None of it matters. It's now. It's what's experienced now. It's the only thing that exists. What's experiencing now. The actual experiencing currently, now. Nothing else exists except as a fantasy.
No, well, I'm very aware that a lot of my now is still very covered up by it. It
That's
feels like
another story. That's
a
another
lot of
story.
suffering.
It's true, but it's another story.
Well, it feels very true. So that's why I'm hoping that
That's
bit by
accurate.
bit, some of these things will drop away
Okay,
and not
that's
cloud
fine.
my
That's-
present experience so
That's fine.
much.
That's the
Linda?
story you're experiencing now.
Linda, just letting the story be, how does it feel true? How does it feel true? If beyond it being just a thought.
Well, again, it's very, very much in the body, which is why
Okay,
I
so
spent-
would you like to go into the body now?
Yes, I can do.
Okay. If you would feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah, just drop in and just let that, oh, that those words, it feels true. Just let them sort of be wherever they want to be, and then just take them as a pointer to say, oh, is this really true? Is it really true? What truth can the body reveal to me? Without any labels. And if you feel like sharing where you're feeling sensations, that would be
Yeah,
really
it's like
great.
it's like a point. The image is
No image, because image is mental. You're in the mind again. Just pure sensation. Like, are you feeling some sensations in your throat, in your chest
no,
area?
it's a top of my solar plexus and around my heart
Okay.
area.
All right. So just be with those sensations, and in a way, you can even take away the location label, but just and see if you can get as close as you can into the sensation, like a dissolving, a psi ball dissolving, rather than being made stronger. Just seeing how close can you get? How close can you get to a cloud? How close can you get to steam? How close can you get to a sensation?
I don't
The
quite get
steam.
this how close to, because there seems to, because the whatever it is that's aware of it seems distant from the actual sensation. It feels like they're two separate things.
So can you bring the two closer? Can you actually like explore as if you were trying to, as if you were not trying to do it, but being curious enough to look at the sensation of something very ephemeral, like steam or a cloud, and say, oh, how close can I get to this? Is there actually a boundary between whatever it is that your calling is aware of and the sensation? And is there actually a separation between that awareness and the separation? Just curiously looking, make so that, is there really a subject aware, what you call the thing that's aware, or I'm not sure what you call it, or and the actual sensation as an object? Where is the dividing line between the witnesser or the awarer and the sensation?
It feels that the looker, it feels quite me
Yeah.
identified. The looker is still very much up here, and the sensation's still quite down here. And there's no definite boundary, but the space in between.
How big a space? Can you define the space? Where does the space of one end? And now if you've got two spaces, there's a space where the looker is and the space where the sensation is, this might be quite hard, but can you look actually into the space in between the two? Even if it can, and can you sense, have a sense without any labels, without labeling of that space?
It's just empty, light space.
So it feels light.
Yeah.
And can you find the boundary between the light space and the sensation space lower down? Can you move your focus between the two?
Yeah, there does seem to be a bit of a boundary, like a wall of a cell around the sensation, around the ball.
So can you get closer to that? Can you get closer to that wall? And can you maybe suggest that the wall, maybe the boundary, maybe it's a bit squishy, like a ball that's lost air. Can you play with that boundary line? If you can actually find it.
Yes, I can find it. It's like a membrane, a flexible membrane.
Mhm. Does it have anything to tell you? Does it have a feeling tone? Like some sadness or
Unsureness.
unsureness? So be with that feeling tone of unsureness and allow it to be there. What's the unsureness looking for? What comfort could it receive? Not so much thought-based, but more what comfort?
I think warmth and a feeling of safety.
Can you bring that down? Bring that from that light space from your heart. Can you bring that down to just holding that space?
It feels my heart like my heart's inside it.
Okay. Right. So has the space, the location of that space, has that shifted?
No. It's
Can
like
you
it's
be
like
in, can you be in a body holding that space of uncertainty, that need for comfort and safety? Can you just be with that without it needing to leave at all, without it needing to change at all, without trying to divert into thinking, just being with it as long as it's possible?
Yeah. Feels like it's all just softening. The whole thing is just softening a little bit now.
Yeah, let it move around. However it is, it's welcome to be.
Feels like it's sort of turned into a bubble, and it's sort of slightly squishing and bouncing around, but in the same place. But it's softer than it was, but there's still a thin membrane
That's
around
okay.
it. Mm.
Yeah.
Feels like it's expanding now, filling up, slowly filling up this area.
Does it still have a feeling of uncertainty, or is the feeling changed a little bit?
I think the uncertainty's gone. There isn't, I don't think there's much of a feeling to it now. It's just gently pulsing, and it's bigger, moving around in the whole of my torso now.
Is the sensation unpleasant, or is it quite, could it have a label of pleasantness or unpleasantness, or is it just, it's just there?
I think it's just, it is just there, but now I can feel almost within it or behind it, there's still this contraction here in the solar plexus. I don't know whether it's within it or out, without or outside it, really.
Could it just be another sensation without it being part of a labeled it? Could it just be, oh, waves in the ocean appearing? Oh,
Yeah,
maybe
it's just another bubble.
Yeah. Do you remember those lava lamps that were used to be popular? Yeah. How wonderful it is to watch them. And it's a little bit, I always think of that as an internal lava lamp of sensation.
Yes, I've used that analogy as well. Yeah. Yeah. I'll let it bubble away for a bit. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
How have you been, Soren?
A lot of doubts, a lot of anger. It just feels like so much bullshit. It's like I'm constantly buying my own bullshit and I'm living in a world where everyone's habitually bullshitting each other and I'm too afraid to say something about it or anger people. It's a lot of flashbacks of conversations where I sort of wanted to say something that might have been inflammatory. I don't know. My laptop broke, so I'm gonna be here for a while. It's triggering because sitting where I am, there's been a lot of many hours of emotional repression playing games, so trying to be productive here, not engaging with that is, I don't know, it's just been very, it's been difficult, lost intellectually for a few days. I noticed what feels most helpful for me is just noticing thoughts over and over again. And before you calling me after Lindy thanked Rwanda, there was that recursive loop of, oh, he's gonna call me probably, he's gonna call me probably. There was like a freeze reaction there. There just feels like there's a cycle of doubts, shame, anger over and over, or fear, some kind of loop there. Doubt, anger, I don't know. I just feel sick of a lot of things. It's been this way. I'm just talking too much. Maybe it's this. I'm being prompted to talk.
Hmm. Does the doubt and the anger seem to be connected in any way to each other?
Yes.
Would you say the anger is about the doubt?
Yes, also in a perverse way. I think there is anger in lack of doubt in others.
Okay. So would that be that if you're angry that others don't have doubt, is that anger then because you don't have what they have?
Yes, there's a lot of that for me. Not having with other people's, not having with other people have. And I lost it. There's a lot of believable stories about myself. It's doubts of, there was a, a conversation Angelo had with Frank Yang that really triggered me a while ago, because there's this like ultra masculine guy who became liberated, right? And he's doing all these, he's like mentioning sex addiction and whatnot. I don't know. And part of me knows that doing all these things won't, or achieving, it's like the story of, oh, I'm powerless because I don't have money. So I'm like rationing constantly, not employed. And yet part of me knows that it's like a trick of the mind, the inversion of cause and effect, that it's because I feel powerless that I don't have a job and money. There's like this deep-seated belief, but then it's really believable the other way around, because then it puts the onus on the external world. I
With
just feel like I'm constantly bullshitting myself, and I hate it.
yeah. So when you see the onus being put on the external world, you also see that that's just what you're doing. It doesn't really mean it's on the external world. It's just you doing that. You see
Yeah.
that, eh? That's why you call it bullshit, because you see you're doing it and you know that it's not
And
legitimate.
like one thing, oh, it keeps projecting it outside, and then it's like there's the shame of being of anger directed at others, and then there's doubts, there's fear of triggering other people, and then there's doubt. Like as an example, there's fetters that get mentioned a lot here, and part of me thinking like, why do I even want to learn about any of this stuff when it doesn't help me? It's just more noise. It's more things to look into and understand. And it's like I've been doing that for so long. It's just so,
Yep.
it's so disorienting, and I hate it. It's like getting lost in all this outside stuff. And like society is just so conditioned, like advertisements and all this nonsense, like trying to convince me of things outside. And yet what's really upsetting, and it's just like I fall for it over and over again, at some point it's just like I give up and just fall for it. Give up, okay, let me just go down this rabbit hole for a little while and then pretend that it'll make me feel better. And then all it does is just let the anger build up. And it's just sort of it's a vicious loop.
And what makes it worse is that you're right about all of that stuff. Everything you've said is right.
Like going on the subway and you literally see 9 out of 10 people just staring at a screen. It's like everyone's just
But if you go back
and then me being
15 or
being
20,
right is like just another story. And
yeah,
it's like
yeah. And you can see
it's,
that too, can't you?
I don't know, validation's upsetting. There was, because it feels like external.
Yep. But you know it's right. There's no, you don't really need anybody to validate it for you. What you say is right. So the issue is, how do you feel about that? All those people staring at the screens on the subway, if you went back 50 years, half the people would be sitting there like zombies and the other half would be reading newspapers. It would be
Yeah.
no, would it? Exactly the same. That's what the way society is. Okay. And it's upsetting to see that. It's also even more upsetting to see yourself getting sucked into the same stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's another thing I mentioned a lot, and I'm like noticing this is sort of like I notice another story that's very linked to it of someone calling me like better than some professionals and something, but that takes a lot of context to explain. But it's like there was a woman who it's like reminds me a lot. I guess that's why it's so triggering. It's very similar to the conditioning I received growing up of someone calling me brilliant and smart. And it's like it feels the context for this is pretty simple to explain. Me playing bridge for 6 or 7 times, and it's like I've said this to quite a few people. This is like the fourth or fifth time me telling this, and it's upsetting to see that this attachment to this kind of interaction. But there's this like for some reason someone calling me smart and brilliant when it's like I don't know. I kind of hate it. Maybe
Mm.
this is just defense mechanism.
It doesn't have,
It's like all the,
doesn't
huh?
change the self-loathing though, does it?
Yeah, that's what people told me growing up a lot of the time. And it's like there's just disconnect from outside what people communicated to me and how I felt inside
Mm, mm.
constantly.
Yep. I mean, how would they know anyway? How would they know? That's just their opinion, isn't it? They're responding to something, but yeah. So you can be brilliant at the same time as you can be stupid.
Yeah, and I feel the stupid a lot more.
Yeah.
Even earlier, it's like I'm trying to write some messages, and the lack of eloquency, it's like, oh God, yeah, I feel so stupid compared to what I read.
Mm, mm.
And this is just like, again, it all just feels like a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
And then I sit quietly for a few hours. And then there's the very believable story of, oh, I'm not really progressing much in the world, am I? Because I'm jobless and I'm not searching for jobs. And it's like there's this influence of not living on my own. So there's environmental factors, pressures that I'm not. It's not. I wouldn't say it's extreme by any means or um, particularly triggering, but it's still there. I wouldn't say an abusive household or anything like that whatsoever.
No.
Emotionally neglectful, sure, but well-meaning by all means, I would say.
Mm-hmm. You don't need an outside abuser though, do you? You can do that for yourself quite well.
Yeah,
Mm.
so I
So
guess that's sort of what I mean by very believable stories,
yeah, yeah.
where if I just sit here, um, if I just sit here and stare in a mirror for a while and just sit here and sit on the couch and just watch thoughts, it's like, yeah, I'm just really powerless. And then there's a very, very believable story of me not having any agency in the world. And then I can see that the end result of this kind of reaction is me doing the normal world stuff, the agenda, city, just stuff. Oh, I go to college, I get a job, I grind, I kind of just do what my brother is doing. I just like take shit from a lot of people, get paid for it.
Yep. But you can't do that. Even if you said, I'll do that, I'll become normal. You can't. You're not normal. That's it. Full stop. You can pretend to be normal, but you get very tired of that very quickly. But because you're not. It's not going to happen. You can't make yourself be like that way, can you? I mean, not for more than 5 minutes.
Yeah, I couldn't
I
hold those
see the
kinds of
same thing
jobs.
as Lindy. You've got this story that sometime in the future, if certain things happen, everything will be okay. But you never, ever, ever reach that stage. No matter how successful you get at being how you think you should be or how you would like to be, it'll never be enough. There'll always be more, because shit'll still come up and you'll say, oh, that proves that I'm not enough. I've got to go further.
I've experienced that in certain microcosms, yeah. Some, we can say places where there's people competing and there's comparison. I sort of experienced that. And I see people being unhappy and hearing all these stories of, even just seeing like American billionaires, and it's like the disconnection there with the level of product, the ground level, what people interact with every day, and top-down dysfunction.
Yeah, this sounds very familiar to me. I feel with you, Soren. It's but for me, I identified, or I do identify, as just a big resistance to the world, to living. And I guess I've just felt I need to see that reflected back to me. I'm sure that's not something you don't know, but that's where to look, I think, rather than, I mean, I completely get it. And I'm, always shouting about the world in my head, and I don't want to be part of that, and blah, blah, blah. But what is it in me that refuses to take part in this life, that for whatever reason I am in it, whether I chose to be or not? And actually, I may as well try and make the most of it if I possibly can, in my own apparently very unsuccessful way to big society. I do some work. Yes, I've had big achievements, but it's a load of shit, really. But it's a load of shit that we're in. So for me, if I'm going to sort myself out, I'm going to have to interact with it to an extent in order to find the things in me, in this, that's making me suffer so much. I mean, massive resistance, I mean, my armor has always been very, very thick, it feels. And it's all about resistance. And somehow, for me, if I manage to break through a little bit of that, it feels like it's the right direction.
Well, no, you don't have to break through the armor. What you have to do is be happy with the armor that's there. Right? You don't have to change a single thing. What you are is what you are is what you are. Who you are is who you are is who you are. All of your foibles, all of your every bit of, all of this stuff that's you, that's me, the way we are is the way we are. Right? So what this whole thing is about isn't changing, getting better, isn't fixing something. Okay? It will get fixed, but you can't fix it. And the only way the only way that it will get fixed is for you to stop trying to fix it. Okay? You are what you are, what you are. Full stop. right? So
But
you,
don't,
oh,
don't,
I want to change this. I just need to do this and everything will be okay. Well, that's you wanting to do this. And that's okay.
What
Believing that it'll get better in the future if you do something. That's okay.
but I think recognizing the things in the now that are, for me, for instance, stopping,
There's nothing
preventing joy, preventing my feeling of joy,
right.
that
No,
when I recognize that, some of it seems to drop away.
right. And
So I'm not really doing anything, it's recognizing it.
yes. So recognizing, right? Seeing what you already know. That's what recognizing is about. Recognizing, cognizing, seeing, recognizing, seeing again, seeing what you already know, right? If you want to do something to fix up the future, then that's the way you are. Wanting to do something to fix up the future, right? The actual thing of fixing up the future, that's a bullshit story. The wanting to do it, that's you now. And if you're happy with that, not with the outcome of it, but happy with the fact that you're wanting, there you are. Whatever comes up, whatever you call unsatisfactory, whatever you call shit that's coming up, that's it. It's okay. The content of it is irrelevant. It's your relationship to that that's the issue.
I want to say, so I'm conflicted
Yes.
because, and I notice this a lot. I actually don't want advice. And yet I don't know if I really do want advice. Politeness and respect in social context, I struggle with a lot because I always defer to the other people.
So you want to be liked.
No,
So why do you defer?
I don't want to make other people upset.
Okay.
Like as I guess as an example, like to Lindy earlier, I wanted to tell to your face, like you're bullshitting yourself with the feathers.
Yeah.
But
Good.
it's like there's a lot of like stuff that comes to mind that sort of, okay, well, who am I to say that? Is that really
Okay.
like the doubts?
Right. Yeah.
It's like,
And in a normal social situation, I think that's maybe appropriate to ameliorate that a little. But
and
here, it's appropriate for you to say it. Linda, you were bullshitting about the feather. Now, that doesn't mean she's bullshitting. What it means is that you think she's bullshitting, and that's fine. Well, whether it's true or not, it's another matter. The reality is you felt it. Right?
for me, I don't even want to limit that to a circle. I just want to, part of me really wants to just say that out loud to people.
Yep.
Like in social situations. And it's like, there's some kind of validation. There's like this fear of making other people upset, but part of me sort of wants to make other people upset.
Yeah, I get it. I get that you know, you're how can I put it? You're maybe angry at the fact that they're living in a fake world, that they're bullshit
Yes.
all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I can remember wanting to fix all of that. Now that's okay. Yeah, it doesn't worry me anymore. But I did once upon a time that got to me. And if I'm honest to myself, I would say, yeah, it still comes up a bit, especially when I'm listening to politicians bullshitting on television or whatever, you know, it comes up then. You think, what the fuck is going on here? This is so out of touch with reality, isn't it? You know, you know,
Especially in America, it's crazy. It's
oh,
like how bad, it's just like, it just gets worse and worse and worse. It's like, how bad can it get? It's like a, it's like,
And there's no
you
hope.
you can't write this stuff.
Yeah, look, Jesus, I'm 76, I think, and I think, oh, there's no way I'm going to live to see this work itself out. The world is going to be stupid when I die, as it is now, as it's been all my life. When I think about it, not going to change. Okay, but I don't have a desire to fix it anymore. What I do have a desire for is to see people relax about it. It's just the way it is, It's like you drop something on your foot and it hurts. Well, that's just the way it is. It hurts. It's not going to not hurt, but at least I can not suffer as a result of getting carried away by stories about how stupid I was to do it. So it's a kind of a simple little thing, but it's a big thing. It's a huge thing. We are the way we are. Look, I got this. It's not going to go away. It's just there. It's because I'm old, It's everything is the way it is. Oh, there's no change in anything. It just is the way it is. I am the way I am. You are the way you are. Okay. And you know what? I'm looking at you two guys and I'm going, you're okay. I'd like to be your friend. I bet you're both interesting. I bet you got some good, really interesting stories you can tell me. You could just, you're fine. I don't know where this idea that you're not fine comes from. I don't know. But I do know. I do remember feeling that way about myself once. Seems like a long time ago now, but no. If only I could I just love to give you a gift. Here, you.
But that comes back to, doesn't it? That comes back to starting to understand that there isn't anything wrong with you. What where the shit comes from is everything that's piled on top, and it's learning to let go of those.
That's not how
Yeah.
at all. That's not at all how I interpret that. That's how I felt.
Isn't
That
it?
was relaxing, actually.
That was what,
The
sorry?
that was relaxing the way Vince described it.
I'm sorry,
Like,
Soren, I didn't.
Yeah.
Roxing.
Relaxing.
Relaxing.
Yes, that was relaxing. I guess there's two things about my experience. I feel like I identify very strongly with that sense of fear that's always there in my gut. And it feels like me because it's always there, and it's a lot of the times it's fluctuating. There are periods of, we can say, like intervals of a few days where it's more and more and more. And there's this interpretation of I'm not okay.
Yep.
And
Isn't it? The other interpretation is that it's you. And so this is Rowena, if she were here, she would say, that's just a sensation. If you can just experience that sensation, you then recognize that the idea that it's me is added to the sensation by thought. It's not you. And the idea that there's something wrong is added by thought. None of those things exist in the sensation itself. It's only the stories that you add to them that make up those things.
the believable part is because that sensation's always there, even
Yes,
if it's
yes.
really faint in the background.
Right. But you say because it's always there, therefore it must be me. Or it feels like me. Yeah.
And the other thing that I want to say about my experience is that I've been finding thought, like observing thoughts over and over. There's I am drawn to Angelo because it feels there's a lot of similarities with the, I guess, like personality biases,
Mm-hmm.
intellectual and uh eloquent, and something I've been noticing is the, like, everything just sort of drops away when I go through thought. Um, just like notice the thought after thought and how it like molds and molds and molds reality, and just sort of noticing it expand, relax a bit. And then there's, because the sensations don't really, with how strongly it feels, the thoughts and interpretations and subjectivities shape my reality. Doesn't feel as, it feels like that's where I need to go more as opposed to the sensations.
No, yeah. No, look, I used to say that about 97% of your thoughts are bullshit, and there's probably 3% that are useful. But I've changed my mind. They're all bullshit. But a lot of them can be entertaining if we don't get sucked into believing them. Just the mere fact that a certain thought turns up, you can have a bit of a chuckle at that because it's funny, it's entertaining. But none of them are actually believable. The only thing that makes a thought believable is another thought. So if you watch the way your thoughts work, not watch the content of them, but watch
Whoa.
the way they work, you'll find that what you've got is thoughts attached to thoughts. And the only thing that makes a thought believable is another thought saying it's believable.
Wow. Here I was having a thought that was very believable, that said, yeah, but how eventually I'm just gonna have to believe a thought. I can sit there and it's gonna be a thought that gets me up.
Yeah,
Eventually, it's just a losing game. It's impossible. Eventually,
absolutely.
oh, I'm gonna have to engage with learning something, and then I'm gonna be lost in thoughts for a while.
Yep.
The thoughts are gonna be, I'm gonna, here I am, trying to find a still body of water.
Yeah.
And then it's like, yeah, I'm gonna have to jump in a river because that's what the mind does.
Yep.
If I want to learn anything or interact with the world in any way.
And it's just endless rabbit holes, all with a promise of satisfaction, but never, ever really delivering, never delivering that satisfaction.
Yes.
But the promise is there. The promise is big. Every thought comes with a promise. Follow me and you'll have satisfaction. Just come on down this rabbit hole and look, I promise you at the end, there'll be satisfaction. There's never is. You know for yourself, there never is. If you do get satisfaction, it lasts for about 5 milliseconds and then we're on to the next thing. Oh, down this rabbit hole, there's more satisfaction. Come on, follow me down here. This place, this thing, what we hope for with this so-called spiritual path is really to start appreciating the world that exists below thoughts, beneath thoughts, underneath thoughts. It's a world where thoughts can't do justice to anything. We can't describe anything accurately because words just aren't good enough. Thoughts aren't good enough. We can have, there's thoughts other than words. There's visual thoughts, there's auditory thoughts and so on. So even if we have a picture as a thought, that picture is still made really simplistic compared to the real world, to the world that we're looking to appreciate. You know, it's like no matter how long you can sit there with a set of inks or paints or crayons or whatever you like, there's no way you can actually draw a leaf and do justice to the real thing. You know, that you even photograph it, you can't do justice to it. The world that we're looking to appreciate is just beyond any description. It is just experience in a oh wow, a wordless, a totally wordless intensity of experience. But to get there, to see that world, we have to shake off the shackles, if you like, of thought, of language, of words, of mind, because it can only work at a really, really superficial level, a really absolutely simplistic superficial level. What we're looking for is just way, way beyond that. And very, very few people see it, although almost everybody will have glimpses of it, but they don't realize, and they forget very quickly when they do have those instances. The first time they see a sunset, they might have that experience, but very quickly they start to describe it, and then they're not seeing the sunset anymore. They're just seeing their ideas about the sunset. Oh, look at the wonderful colors, they'll say, but they're not experiencing the colors. They're just experiencing their description of the colors. So it's just, anyway, but we have to shake off the shackles of thought to get there. That means any idea of improvement is just an idea. It's just a story. It's really obviously a story, isn't it? Isn't it obvious to you that it's a story? Any idea of improvement, of getting better, of being different? Isn't that just really obviously a story?
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with you, man. There is nothing wrong with you. Really, 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 really. Oh God, I wish I could give that to you. Absolutely.
There's a I'm quite into chess, and there's in some ways I love engaging with this because it makes it's so clear to me, all these things. It's like such a perfect environment for seeing all the superficiality and the insanity of thought. There's an example that comes to mind. There's an international master called Mark Esserman, and he plays at, like, very high level. He plays, he streams on Twitch every day, and it's very creepy the way it is, because it's like a cult stream where there's tons of people donating, and if you look, this guy is like insanely depressed if you notice it, because he's like constantly fishing for validation. And then there's people that just give him like tons and tons of money, and it's like insane. It's like I haven't seen even streamers who have like 100 or like 50, 10,000, 50,000 viewers. This guy's like 100, 150, and yet there's like regular donations of like $50, $100, which is insane. And then there's just this guy who's like fishing for rating, and like you see, it's like it's so insane. It's like, it's so obvious. Doesn't matter how high you climb, it's all the same bullshit.
Mm.
I sort of seen that myself playing some like competitive video game. a while ago, you top 1%, top 0.5%, and it's like all the friends think you're cool, and it's like you, if anything, it's like even worse there because it's all the people who've like had a strong enough ego to get there, so they're like bashing each other.
Yeah, crazy, crazy stuff, eh? Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you just got to look at actors and musicians who really get, you know, absolutely insane amounts of money and fame and everything, and then they go and commit suicide. You know, they just, wow, you know, there's just no end to that kind of.
Oh my gosh.
Mm.
You saying that, it's like it's so it must be so bad that the world on the outside is just so different on the world inside. Because on
Mm.
the outside, everyone loves them, they have whatever they want.
Yep, yep,
So in some ways, this is a gift,
yeah. And then
my
inside,
life situation.
they're just in agony. Yeah, crazy. And the really crazy thing is that it's unnecessary. You know, they just got sucked into that thing. I remember this is going back because I had a self-image of myself being ugly as a kid, and
Could be serious.
oh, and I remember seeing this kid at school. I don't remember how old I was. I think it was high school, and there was this young bloke, and he was so handsome, and all the girls loved him, and all the boys loved him, and I thought to myself, what a burden to carry. I am so glad I'm not like him. And I was rationalizing away my own sense of inadequacy, but it was really true. You know, I really see that bloke had a load to carry that was going to make his life miserable one day. Yeah. And I think that is the case, you know, because it's hard not to have an ego when you're like that, you know. Yeah. And it's funny, you know, when I think back on all those things, I think all of the adversity that I went through, wow, how good was it? How really, it was fantastic, you know. I'm lucky that I wasn't, you know, a strikingly handsome bloke like him. I'm really, really lucky that I didn't have that burden to carry. And all the suffering that I did, absolutely good value, got me where I am today. And I couldn't ask for anything better. It's great. Yeah.
That's what I tell my family when they remind me that um I'm 26 and not in college, and they tell me over and over again, oh, all these years you've wasted.
You haven't wasted one moment, my friend, not one moment. Yeah, yeah.
Because the simple answer to that was really deep in escaping through games because I didn't know what to trust anymore,
Mhm.
and it sort of had to run its life out for a few years after abandoning education 20 when, and just sort of seeing like the that what I thought was like, what I thought I really wanted, I guess, was just to play games all day, and I had that for a little while because that's what I thought was safe. That's the only thing I could trust.
Mhm.
It's the only place I've really learned, I feel, in my life.
Yep. It's a tricky one, isn't it? I was thinking of an intentional pun here, that those things will play themselves out.
Yeah, it did actually.
Mm. Yeah, it's an
And
interesting one, isn't it? So you could say one trait case, it would be really true to say, oh, that was a diversion. You were just escaping from your pain with doing all of that. True, true. But you could equally say, isn't it great that you've experienced that and you saw that that's what was happening? So that's
yeah,
also true. And that's really good. Yeah. Everything,
And
everything. There's this thing called, oh, what's it called? I forget now the name of it. A Buddhist thing about origination. It's, and it, for me, it was a brilliant thing. I saw how, you know, for me to be able to lift my finger right now, what was necessary? Well, the conditions that were necessary for me to be able to do that was all sorts of things. It was the ability of me to be able to do that with my hand. It was the idea that came to me to do that. It was the fact that I was born. It was the fact that my father was born, the fact that my mother was born, the fact that everything that and I can go back and back and back to the Big Bang, or even before that, if that's possible. I can go back to the beginning and I can say everything that has ever happened in the whole world had to happen exactly the way it did for me to do that the way I did it. It would only take one thing. If some Stone Age ancestor of mine got sick or got trampled by an elephant or a mammoth or something at the wrong time, I wouldn't even be here to be able to do that. Everything that's ever happened had to happen exactly the way it did for me to be able to do that. And it's the same for you. It's the same for everybody. You know, there's not a single thing that has happened in your life that isn't great, that isn't exactly the way it had to be for things to be the way they are now. That's just brilliant. I just saw that as, how can there be any separation between you and me? Because you have to be there for me to be able to have done that. And you had to be there exactly the way you are. Not a single thing could be different. Not a hair on your head, not a single thing could be different, or otherwise that would be different.
part of me really believes this. It's somewhat intellectual, but it's like it's everything is really deterministic. Everything was always meant to play out one way. It's just that we can't ever know.
That's a bit of a
And
twist on it, though. I wouldn't say it's deterministic in that sense, because
predetermined
everything changes all the time, you see. So everything has to be the way it is, but that doesn't mean anything's determined, because we have no control over all the other things around us. Right. So if my internet was out tonight, this wouldn't have happened.
yeah, but like your internet would have always it's I could explain this in a very uh like mathy way, but it's like that would have always happened. It's just that you wouldn't have known it because it's like so complex and so impossible to know.
Yeah.
It would have like always happened that way.
Yeah.
And I guess the thing about this is that it really upsets me when people they tell me things like, oh, what would you be 10 years from now? It's a very common like interview question. I'm trying to go into tech, which is like, you know, probably from my experience is like one of the most bullshitty industries, because it's all sorts of money and all sorts of stuff you can do and all sorts of fake people and people getting rewarded for being fake. And
Yep.
what could you have done differently a few years ago? Oh, what would you, if you go back, what would you do different? What would you tell yourself?
They're kind of useless stories, aren't they?
Yeah, but they're so,
Well,
people like them a lot.
people believe them for sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And if somebody asked me that, I might play along with it, or I don't know what I would do, you know, but yeah, I enjoy being with people who are not in any way aware of the kind of things that I hold.
So they're just like clowns for you, but you don't tell them.
Well, they're very interesting, you know. Yeah.
It's like, that's so cruel, but it's so funny. It's like, so part of it is so cruel. It's just like, you just let them be themselves. It's like the village idiot. You just don't ever tell
Yeah.
them.
I don't actually see them as idiots, although there's certainly a lot of what I do judge people as idiots. But at the same time, I recognize that that's just me being me doing a bit of selfing. You know, when I say Trump's an idiot or his supporters are stupid, whatever. But at the same time, I can also see that they are the way they are and they can't help that. That's just the way the air conditioning is played out. So, you know, that goes as well.
I think part of that reaction was me being on the other end of it. People treating me the same way, but it was because I wasn't as into the social matrix as they were,
Mm,
if that makes sense.
yep. Yeah.
So there's, I can feel a lot of pain there.
Mm. Yeah, because it's basic part of human nature to be ostracized or not ostracized too. That's kind of a big thing. We want to belong. That's part of the being a herd animal as we are, I guess, at that level. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, something early. And then there was an example I was thinking of just that happened a year ago, or like a few months ago, actually. So it's quite emotionally heavy.
Hmm. How have you been traveling, Helen?
Hi, I just empathise or recognise everything that's just been said. I'm in exactly the same place at the minute. I just get very aggravated by people, and there's one person in particular, and then I felt that I was starting to become a bit. I was starting to bully him, and I really resenting myself, resenting him, resenting. And I sort of prayed one night and I just said, please, can I try and resolve this in some way? You know, I know it's about me and I know it's about what's coming up in me, I can see in him. And a situation came up where just him and I were together. And he said he didn't think I liked him. And he's a very sensitive soul in some ways. And we spoke and sort of resolved it. And I think he understood that what I see in him, I see in myself, and I get very angry with both what I can see in him and anyway. And he sort of understood it a little bit, but I thought, well, hold on, I can't do it with everybody. So I'm getting angry at a lot of people. And I get the bullshit. I really do. And and there's a lot of, when that happens, I can see there's a lot of shoulds in me head. They shouldn't be doing that. They shouldn't be doing that. And I know that's a judgment, you know, quite a harsh judgment. But and this going into the body and feel it in the body and all of that, and it for me it's quite sort of formulaic, and then I get angry in a similar way. It's like, oh, you know, why are we going in that route again? And
Yep.
Is that sincere? There's a sincerity there that I don't. I know it's my judgment. I know it's my judgment. It just feels insincere.
So when you catch yourself being judgmental, are you judgmental about that?
Not in the instant, because I'm a bit angry. So not in the instant.
Oh, wait a minute. If you're angry, you are being judgmental, aren't you? You're saying, I'm angry about being judgmental. Isn't that being judgmental about being judgmental?
No, I'm angry at what I'm seeing as either insincere or they shouldn't do that, shouldn't do that.
Well, that shouldn't do
But-
that. It's a judgment, isn't it?
Oh yeah, they're all judgments. Oh, definitely, yeah. And I see they're all judgments.
So you have a
And it's
judgment,
almost,
and then you judge the fact that you have a judgment.
yeah, but I'm not seeing that. But I'm sure that exists, but I'm not seeing that.
Hmm.
But yeah, I'm
Well, that's
yeah,
that's a
obviously
good place
exists,
for you
yeah.
to look. So when you catch yourself having a judgment, check and see if you're having a judgment about the fact that you had a judgment.
Yeah.
And then if you did find that you did judge yourself for having a judgment, see if you aren't having a judgment about the fact that you're having a judgment about the judgment that you originally had.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some of that, yeah.
And does it ever stop? Do we not judge the judge, the judge, the judge, the judge, the judge?
No, it can't stop.
No, that's right. It can't. So isn't that
No.
hilarious? Don't you think that's really funny that we get carried away judging the judgment? And
The
judge
judgment that judges the judge
of the
that judges
judgment. We can start stuttering and say judge, 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 judge.
the judge the
Hilarious,
judge.
don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. And guess
It
what?
is really.
And guess what? The moment you crack up and say it's hilarious, you've stopped judging. Without having to stop judging, you do just stop judging because you can see how hilarious it is that you were doing it. That's a valuable technique. I'm glad I can give somebody a gift tonight.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, I will watch that. It's true. I know it's true, but I've not quite clocked it, but I will now.
Yeah, you will. Yeah, you get it. I know you get it. Yeah. And if judgment arises, there's nothing wrong with that. That's just judgment arising. It's just another thought that you believed.
Oh, it's not nice though. I was sat in company with about 10 people, and she's that, and she does, and that one does, and that one's saying that, and that one, you know, and she's being greedy, having another piece of cake, and it's like, oh, for God's sake, you know.
Mm.
Huh? It's a funny old
I've got
thing, isn't it?
I can share a judgmental story that happened this morning, which was sort of interesting. I was doing a little bit of Facebook, waiting for the coffee to be made, and somebody posted a short talk by Christopher Hitchens, who's a razor sharp mind on he's a strong critic of for example, this was a critic on the church and all the insincerity of the lacks of apologies going back in time, but still things that are carried on. I think the talk was in 2009, I'm not sure. But I was listening to it, and his argument, which was sort of on the verge of, it was so precise, and I don't know, but he was not able to be, he didn't need to be emotional. But in me, that there was this righteous indignation, and, you know, just like there was such a strong, intense internal, I mean, it was very, very internal, like blood boiling. And, you know, about the atrocities and how, you know, people's natural intelligence has been sort of hijacked and bent by, you know, false beliefs and everything. It just got into this blood boiling for a little bit. until I was diverted from it because I really couldn't go into it. So there was the huge amount of like righteous indignation and against all the atrocities, and also this indignation about the natural intelligence of the human being corrupted to have a consensus reality that was conformed or set in place by an authority, you know, of state or belief. And it was like, oh God, where do I go with this? I don't even know where to go, because it seemed just like this. Well, I mean, I can go back to one of my buzzwords of the helplessness, and knowing it's all, on the one hand, it's all BS. It's complete BS, but then on the other hand, at the same time, it's not, because of the suffering and the beliefs, people who choosing to believe and who are so suffering because of their beliefs, even in a simple way. It's a real alive identification in some way. And it's like, okay, so it's just okay to feel all that. Do I need to take it anywhere? Not really. There isn't I don't know. Yeah, I just don't really know where to go with that. If I would want to resolve something, it's unresolvable. But it was really interesting, the intensity. I don't know if you know, you have some pointers, Vince. It would be, I'm sure everyone can relate to injustice and everything, and all the BS that people have been fed to keep them in control, and how not to think with the natural thinking capacity, how that's being corrupted. It's like all these tapes of, and then it's like, yeah, how self-consciousness or consciousness of self and how one should think is sort of corrupted from natural consciousness. It's like it's all these overlays of how the programming system got set in place. So it sort of goes down all sorts of different rabbit holes.
Of course, it links up with all of the things that we see wrong with the world. So
Yeah.
we start with, we have a judgment that there's something wrong. You know, it's wrong that there's this thing happening in Palestine and Israel. Is wrong. It's what's happening in Afghanistan.
And it was, of course, it's all story, because it's story. It's not it's not even, you know, happening right now, and all sorts of atrocities are happening. And so, and one thing that Pernilla said that is like a hold on to is like, if there's a strong resonance, that means there's a story going on here, you know, because it's the huge projection out onto something. And so that's the interesting, is like, okay, what's the story here, you know, that's still alive to be investigated as I guess as a you know, a wounding, or not wounding, but some sort of story anyway. Yeah.
We can chase down details. We can say, you know, what Putin represents for me, or what that war represents for me, or what stupid American politicians what they represent for me. You know, it's all projection, and the feelings the feelings that we have about them are our own feelings, and they're present now.
Yeah.
And so that gives us something to look at if we need to go there and do that. Or maybe we only need to recognize that it's ours, it's us, with something we own.
Yeah.
And they're not to bypass it per se, but rather to just and it seems to me, in my experience, a couple of times, just the recognition that there is something there is all that's required to own it. And it's not, well, forgiveness is a word that comes to mind, or to love it, to accept it. But it's a case of accepting ourselves for what appears. It's just what appears. What it means is irrelevant, really.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah, it's in a way a metaphor for it's because there's the double layer, because there's the outrageous righteous anger, but that's always a protection of some of helplessness. That's the
Absolutely,
word
yeah.
I
Do you
use.
remember?
And so it's like burning through that story of the injustice and needing to feel blood boiling until the boiling stops, and then it's like, okay, what is that underneath? And that's just such a human state of the sort of sweet sadness of in a way, because once you get to sadness, there's the sweetness comes in, because the rage has gone, or at least that's my interpretation, or the way I sense it in myself.
I can remember frequently feeling as a child that it's not fair. That was the phrase that I used. It's not fair. And what I was talking about, having to do something I didn't want to do, or whatever it was, it doesn't matter, it's not fair. And I think it's just a big outgrowth of that we experience with this whole, it seems like irresponsibility. We elaborate with our stories about what we create meaning and so on, but it comes back to feeling like it's not fair. That's probably where we own it, I think, somewhere like that. Yeah.
And then Pernilla would say, because so much of her words are ingrained, can you be in a body where it's not fair?
Yeah.
And then,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Maybe a better question is, can it ever be actually fair? It's just, the reality is that it's not fair. So how can you not be in a body that's got that?
And it's all thought world, because
Absolutely.
labeling fair or not fair is a label anyway. So
It's another story.
Yeah.
Yeah, tricky stuff. What do you reckon, Bianca?
Well, one thing that is going through my mind, to Soren, I would really appreciate if you tell me when I'm bullshitting myself.
I love it. Good on you. Very good. There you go. Don't do it in the supermarket, though. You'll get into trouble. Yeah.
I'll do it only if it's genuine.
Yes. Yeah. For me too, please. I love
Thank
it.
you.
Yes. Yeah.
And there was one thing when you were talking, Vince, about how this world is so much more complex and rich than what we have in our thoughts. And it's like this is what I don't like about the world.
Oh, okay, yeah.
it's I was when I was looking at art, and I thought, why is it that I like this Renaissance painting and this Art Nouveau and this Japanese painting? What is it? They were all simplifying. In Renaissance paintings, you know, the silhouette is like cut out from the environment, and yes, this is what I liked. The world is so excessive that it's like like a painting with too much.
Yeah.
That composition.
Mm.
Or like, I am not a fan of realistic video games. You know, there was this joke about, I think it was about Witcher 3. It's the game is so realistic that when my avatar throw a grenade, my computer blew up.
Yeah, wow.
It's like, yes, the world is so realistic that my computer blew up.
Yeah, literally, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So does that excess, that all that detail, does that, what you say you don't like it, is it because it feels like you're overloaded? It's too much input for you? How can you explain what your
I can't
experience is?
tell now. Yes, it was with art on a aesthetic level.
Yeah, so you found the simpler stuff, that, well, it's not really simpler, but I mean about, say, the Japanese stuff. You found that more pleasant. You found that more inviting. You were more relaxed and more involved with it. Whereas when you get some of the other stuff,
and even when I've tried looking at the world and putting it, you know, like seeing a plant, a dandelion, and looking at it as if I was trying to make a picture in any of these styles, Art Nouveau or Japanese graphic, to take away.
Yes, to get rid of the excess detail. Yeah.
And it was nice. Yes, it was pleasant. And it was showing also the simple plant become more beautiful to me.
Yes, yeah, gotcha. Yeah. And is that the same with people? If people are more, how can I put it, more black and white in the way they respond, is that easier for you to relate to?
People are impossible
Okay, yeah.
to put.
There's always too much detail there, eh? Yeah. So does that give you a sense of being swamped or overloaded, or what is it that what is the unpleasantness? How does it feel?
With people, it's anxiety because
Oh, you get anxious. Yeah.
I never know what the person will do or say or
Mm-hmm.
react.
So does it feel like impending catastrophe, or maybe that's going a bit too far, but something impending, some impending unpleasantness with most people?
No, just unknown.
Are there any, how can I put it, personality types that you feel okay with people?
Hmm. Hmm. I can't think of any.
Oh, okay, yeah. What about noisy environments? If you were to go to, say, a restaurant or a club and there's a lot of background noise, everybody talking, how do you feel there?
Hmm.
Is that intrusive?
Unless it's so loud that I can't hear the other person talking to me, it's fine.
Yeah. Okay, so you don't get overwhelmed with it. Yeah. Actually, most of those environments are too loud to have a conversation, I find. But yeah.
And then I would leave.
Yeah, sure.
Preferably.
Yeah.
I would prefer
Well,
to.
it doesn't appear that it's like a fear response in you with all of this, but it's something uh, unpleasant, something. Yeah, I can't put
It's
my finger.
it can become awkward,
Awkward. Yeah.
and maybe I fear also that what I say will make other person feel awkward.
Right. Yep. Mm. Yeah, that's something that Soren was saying earlier about making other people uncomfortable. Yeah.
Mm.
Were you taught to be responsible for the reactions of other people?
Mm. In a way, not directly, but yes, there was a person in my childhood that was very how do you say it? Hypersensitive and easy to offend.
Yep. So you had to watch things.
And this person wouldn't get angry, but it would show.
Perhaps even worse than angry, they might get hurt.
Yes, hurt and trying not to show that
But you
they are
knew
hurt.
anyway. Yeah. Yeah. But that doesn't that doesn't relate to, say, looking at uh, a, a, a complex oil painting that's got so much detail that you don't find it at all pleasant. You would like to see it in almost in silhouette, or simplify it at least to
Yes,
make it look.
black and white.
Yes, take away all of that detail. Now that's a bit different to the person not wanting to offend a person.
Mhm.
It's got nothing to do with the painter. It's actually to do with the painting. Would that be right? Yes.
Mhm.
Okay.
Is the painting, if it's realistic, is it offensive to reality?
Offensive to reality? I wouldn't photo.
No. That's an
Like,
interesting one. Lauren,
you mean like a video game that tries to be realistic, but it's
doesn't quite do it. Yeah. Well, even if it's a photograph, it's
Mm.
it attempts to show reality, but it kind of can't. It cannot, no matter how good it is, it can't really do justice to reality. So in that way, do you mean by that, by offensive in that way? It's always a poor copy.
Uh, if you're asking me, yeah, that's the idea I got of
Mm.
like maybe maybe there's like an honesty. I'm beginning, maybe there's a kind of connection here, I feel. Like there's an honesty of what it is with something being simple.
Mm.
It's like openly saying, hey, this is,
Yeah, I'm
I'm
not
not
trying to
trying to
copy it. I'm
copy.
representing something. Yes, yes.
Yes.
Mm. Yeah, there's definitely I get it. Myself, I can appreciate a beauty in that calligraphy, or in the ink painting, rather than in the full on, like Monet, for example. The people say how beautiful that is, and it represents something for sure, but it's not. There's nothing like reality. Yeah, but yeah, overloaded with incredible detail. Yeah. Even if it's somewhat impressionistic. Yeah. Yeah, but I can't quite. Yeah. And it's
Getting the
this
feeling.
offensiveness, Bianca, that you refer to with the or how can I put it, with the compulsion to observe that stuff, to witness that stuff all the time. You can't escape witnessing that. Would you say it was excessive detail?
Yes, it is excessive. I don't know, it's in detail, or there is this excess. success, not only in detail, but something more.
Hmm.
I'm not sure.
Information?
Okay.
Boy, you make me think. Because you do. Yeah.
A word, I don't know, a word comes to my mind, Bianca, that it's about capturing the essence that is a felt sense. And so in the simplicity, there's something that knocks, touches deeper than when there's too much information. That sort of visceral sense of, yeah, capturing essence of something, is purer and more easily able to relate to. I don't know if it's a sort of question, and a thought that came to mind.
Yeah. now, now feeling into it, it doesn't go to other levels like that. I would prefer to see the word black and white in moral terms, or I don't know, even in information for it to be not so complicated. It's just this aesthetical. What is beautiful for me?
Hmm. Yeah,
It's clear lines.
when Rowena said that, it made me think, and it rang a bell that all of the, how can I put it, excessive information obscures the essence, makes it harder to see. And maybe that's what thoughts came to my mind when she said that, and I wondered if that's how it was for you.
I don't, maybe it's something about this, that the word is so excessive. It's more than information. This excess overflows what information can contain. And this part, it's so much of it. I don't know if I just said some nonsense.
Does it have to do with honesty, which is what I was trying to get at earlier, without saying it?
About this.
Because I think that's maybe why, or that, again, I'm hesitant to interject because I feel like like I might make it too intellectual, but that's what came to mind earlier when you mentioned the people not being honest with the reaction to you, and that's something that resonates with me.
Mm, mm.
So could you extend that to say that that a realistic painting eludes honesty? It's not as honest as a different kind of painting.
Mm. No, I'm thinking about it, but it's getting into the motives of the author, that he tried to show his technique or please the people. It's I think it's a wrong way, and I will lose what I'm
Okay.
feeling about this excess in the world, excess in the real world.
Mm.
Mm. Maybe I'm just upset with the assumption that you've made, that everyone, when looking at this complexity, will be amazed and astonished.
Okay.
I'm not amazed.
Mm.
I'm not amused.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So it is. Well, I can interpret that as it is about honesty then, because what you see them attempting to do is to influence people by technique rather than by an honest representation.
But well, the art is for me, it's more about showing what I see in my mind,
Yes. Yes.
and not replicating
Mm.
what everyone sees. Yeah, it's like sharing the mind.
Yeah. But you see the same thing in nature that you see in some of those paintings. Is that true? So nature can also be excessive.
There's always is.
Say that again.
I don't see in nature something like Art Nouveau.
Right. Okay. Hmm. Mm.
Well, it's maybe I'm just trying to say that I really like this fantasy world with its simple lines.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, I get it. I get it. Yeah.
And yeah, I mm, mm, I have some difficulty with understanding why it is so important to go into senses and to feel the real world,
Mm.
this direct experience of real world. Why is it so important?
Oh, well, yeah, it's not important. What it is simply for a start, we can't experience the real world. We can only experience our interpretation of it. But what that's all about, it's just a staging point. It's just a part way resting place to debunk the unreal world of our concepts. The concepts that we used to believe were actual. Once we can get past them, right, then we can also start to recognize that what we call the real world is in fact still our thoughts. But we've got to get the first step out of the road before we can get into that step. So there's no end thing with direct experience. Direct experience is still an interpretation from our own unique perspective. We can still only experience our experiencing, which is unique to us. But what we are doing with that is recognizing, or attempting to do, is to recognize that before that we were seduced into thinking that a whole lot of our concepts were real. That's all. Once we recognize that they're not real, they're only our thoughts, then we can start to. So when, in the end, we'll get to the point with the so-called real world where we realize that that's purely a mental construction as well. But at least it's the actual mental construction rather than an induced hypnotic construction that we had before we debunked our thoughts. So it's all a progression. Kind of a progression. That's not really right either, but it'll do for the moment. Yeah. There's so much of it. It's overwhelming when you consider it. There's so much of what we take to be real. I mean, people start wars over protecting their reputation. How ridiculous is that? You know, how much does America, how obsessed with it is it in believing that they lead the world in all sorts of things? You know, and they're prepared to go to war for that. And how stupid is my country when they follow America into any war that they want to go into? You know, and it's all over stories. At the moment in my country, they're obsessed with this idea that China wants to do bad things to the world. You know? And so consequently, we're just spending $1 zillion on submarines that are going to be totally useless by the time we get them. That's crazy stuff. And it's all over story. It's all story. The whole world seems to be run based on these stupid stories. So once we can free ourselves from that at a personal level, then we can start to see what really goes on. And that's us creating the world as we experience it from our own thoughts. That's a kind of an overview. Yeah, what it's worth. Anyway, that's a good note to finish on. I think it's nearly midnight here. Yeah. Thank you, guys. It's been great again. Yeah.
Thank you for hosting these.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye, Lindy. Ramiz.